The first injury is the cerebral concussion. So it is one of the injury of the brain that is called the cerebral concussion. What happens in the cerebral concussion? The head strike against some object and the brain inside, because of the momentum, it moves a little bit against the skull. No doubt skull is having the cranial cavity well protected, plus it is covered by three concentric meninges, dura, arachnoid and pyometer, along with the CSF, which is a shock absorber lying in the subarachnoid space. So during the light type of the injury to the head, it is called the cerebral concussion, and CSF save it. Or thick tuft of the hair on our head will protect our skull from the fracture and underlying cranial cavity and the brain. It happens sometime you are going into the bus. As usual, you got drowsy and you got sleep. Suddenly, there is break and your head strike against the railing a little bit. So it is also a head injury, because your head, frontal bone or frontal part of your head strike against hard steel railing, the iron rod. So it is also the head injury, but your brain, so suddenly you open the eye and you don't know where you are for a fraction of a second. So this type of injury is called the cerebral concussion, in which brain is disturbed a little bit, but there is no any neurological deficit. You regain the consciousness, you are alert. So such injury is called cerebral concussion. The second type of the injury is the cerebral contusion. In the cerebral contusion, what happens? The violence of the head injury is much more than the first one. Your head strike against some hard object, or somebody hit you at the head, and the brain inside is moved very violently, and it strike against the hard cranial cavity. Because of that, what happens? The superficial vessels on the superolateral or inferior surface of the cerebrum, very fine capillaries, they get ruptured, and there is a little bit subpile hemorrhage. Sub means below, pile means pyometer. So subpile hemorrhage is there, blood collection is there, but it is capillary blood. Amount is very, very less. And patient again has got no any neurological deficit, no problem to the brain functioning. So it is also the lighter type of the head injury. So it is called the cerebral contusion. Contusion means redness, blueness, a localized area. Sometimes you got blunt injury anywhere on the body. What do you see after 24 hours? There is a red color or magenta color. After 3 days it becomes bluish color. That is contusion. After 7 days, when you see here, it disappears. No ointment, no injection, no medicine is required. So what was that? It was contusion. Same is on the brain. It takes much more time than 7 days to reabsorb the blood. So when blood comes out of the body, it is reabsorbed by the tissue. Third type of the violent injury of the brain is the cerebral laceration. In the cerebral laceration means lacerated. Lacerated means there is a cut of the gray matter or white matter of the brain. So it is a violent type of the head injury, maybe in the roadside accident or anywhere. So here the gray or white matter is shattered and there is a irregular margins of the brain tissue damage. And depending upon which of the area of the brain or the gray matter involved, patient shows the signs and symptoms also. For example, if this occurs on the precentral gyrus, homunculus, depending upon which small area is involved actually, there is a tear in the gray or white matter of the brain. Blood comes out of it because every part of the brain is having the blood supply. So a larger artery is involved or vein is involved, bleeding is there, tissue is damaged, and there may be permanent loss of function of that particular area of the brain throughout the life. So these are the three categories. Why we use the word cerebral? It means cerebrum is the largest part of the brain. So that's why we use the word cerebral, concussion, contusion and the laceration injuries. So here neurological deficit is there on the third part. There is some loss will be there depending upon the area involved. Other type of the injury is the counter coup injury. Counter coup injury is the injury in which person is moving very fast, maybe on the road or in the vehicle. Suddenly he met the accident. Then what happens due to accident? What happens? The skull becomes standstill, but the brain inside is still having the momentum, is moving, and that brain will strike against the skull. So that is called, and that area which strike against the brain on the skull bones will get the contusion, third type of injury. So the injury occurs on the, depending upon on frontal side or occipital side, or if there is an injury from the lateral side, very violent injury, somebody has hit from the brick or something object, then what happens? The brain from this side is the injury, impact of the injury, and the brain shift to the left side. So the brain will strike against the left side of the cranial cavity, and there will be maybe contusion, maybe laceration. So such a type of the injury in which the opposite side of the brain is involved, we use the word counter coup injury. So these are the types of the injuries. Every protection has been made in the skull to protect the brain from the external injury, but still they are involved. The Meyers, they are the three meninges I have said already. They are concentric, one on the another. So whenever you go to some birthday, you take a gift, you wrap with a beautiful, colorful paper. But problem of that paper is very thin. If accidentally, before reaching the destination, if it slips from your hand and falls on the road, it will be shattered. You will again go to the shop, again wrap it. So there are three meninges. If dura is torn, still two are there. So if you wrap your happy birthday gift by three coverings, three wrapping papers, there are possibility that outer is damaged and inner two they are okay. Same is here. So these are the protective layers. Beside it gives the CSF and buoyancy to make it lighter. Secondly, the falx cerebri. Falx cerebri is a double fold of dura mater, which is a vertical dura mater, vertical in position. So this vertical position, I have told you yesterday that it separates the two cerebral hemisphere, otherwise they may glue together because of the presence of superficial vessels. it protects the brain or the cerebrum from the side to side movement. So whenever there is a violent side to side movement is there, the falx cerebri will prevent the shifting of the hemisphere on either side. So it gives the fixity to them. If it is absent, for example, if we remove the falx cerebri, then what happens? Right cerebral hemisphere will strike against the right and right. So there will be mutual friction between the two. And every day there will be cerebral laceration. And we would have been finished. Same is the tentorium cerebelli. It is a tent-shaped horizontal sheet of the dura mater below which lies the cerebellum. And any violent injury or the movement of the head antero-posteriorly or side to side keep the cerebellum in its anatomical position below the tentorium cerebelli. So movement of the cerebellum is minimal because of the tentorium cerebelli. Same is the movement of cerebral hemisphere is minimal because of the vertical double fold of falx cerebri. So that is the purpose of the folds of the dura mater. Again, the pituitary master's gland, it is also fixed by the dura mater, and there is a diaphragma celli, which is again a horizontal small sheet of the dura mater resembling the size of your stamp on the envelope, maybe a bit smaller than that. And there is a round hole in the center through which the stalk or the infundibulum of the pituitary hangs. So below the diaphragma celli, also in the pituitary fossa, the pituitary gland is fixed. So during the movement of the brain in this cranial cavity, there will be no damage to the infundibulum or the stalk as well as the pituitary. So these folds of the dura mater, they are protecting the vital structures, but still there are injuries are there. Because diaphragma celli lies over here, across the here, and there is a hole in it through which this pituitary gland hangs down. So that is the how we do the cranial cavity and the head injuries. Now pituitary gland lies in the pituitary fossa here. In the pituitary tumor, it start enlarging the size of the pituitary gland. Anteriorly, when it enlarges, it presses the optic chiasma, because optic chiasma lying anteriorly after crossing the optic canal. So whenever the pituitary gland will press upon the optic chiasma, we know optic chiasma contains crossed fibers coming from nasal half of the retina. So there will be homonymous hemianopia. Nasal vision will be lost. So whenever a patient comes and says that I can't see you, but I can see the nurse who is standing right side. Because in order to see it, he has to move it. So when such a complaint is there, who knows the anatomy of the pituitary fossa and optic chiasma, he immediately came to know that his nasal half of the retina is not working, optic chiasma is involved. Without CT scan, just by the complaint of the patient, we can diagnose the disease. So that is the importance. Then same pituitary, when it enlarges laterally, now laterally lies the medial wall of cavernous sinus. So it will press the medial wall. Now the medial wall will come close to the lateral wall. Both the walls, they are glued together almost because of the pituitary gland enlargement. Then what happens? Blood in the cavernous sinus, which was coming from superior ophthalmic vein, inferior ophthalmic vein, sphenoparietal sinus, anterior intercavernous sinus, central artery vein of the retina. So now they will not fill the cavernous sinus. So that venous blood will go back to their destination or their origin. So whole of the eyeball will be congested. All the veins of the eyeball, they are dilated because now the blood is going back because the cavernous sinus is collapsed. Its medial wall meet with the lateral wall. There is no space to come the blood. So the blood will go back to the eye and eye becomes swollen. And all the veins, they becomes congested with the blood, and the sclera, which is white in color, it becomes red. So when you see a red color of the sclera, then and a little bit exophthalmos, bulging of the eye also outside because of the pressure of the blood in the eyeball. So such a diagnosis can be made. And the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, contains 4 nerves. Lateral wall of cavernous sinus is related to 4 nerves. Which nerve? Remember, OTOM. Operation theatre, before going for operation, you chant the Om, 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 Om. How I have remembered. Operation theatre, Om. Oculomotor nerve, T for trochlear, O for ophthalmic division of trigeminal, M for maxillary division. So these are the 4 nerves. So when medial wall of the cavernous sinus meet with the lateral wall, and what lies here? Lateral to this lies the temporal lobe of the cerebrum. So these 4 nerves will be pressed against the temporal lobe gray matter, and all the patient will show all the signs and symptoms of oculomotor palsy, trochlear nerve palsy, ophthalmic division palsy, and maxillary division. So this is a common sense. It is not given in your book. You have to make sometime applied yourself if you have got a common sense. That what the patient will come to a long list of the complaint depending upon the oculomotor is a motor nerve. So M for M, muscle will be paralyzed. Which muscle? Except superior oblique and lateral rectus. Patient comes with the diplopia, double vision, lateral squint. So many things you can write yourself. Trochlear nerve is involved. Patient comes with the complaint of loss of intorsion. Then other inferior oblique is okay. Extorsion may be there. Ophthalmic division is as far as it is sensory for the eyeball. Nasociliary nerve will be lost. Corneal reflex will be lost. Skin over the bridge of the nose will be insensitive. Sensory loss. You have to write on yourself. Lacrimal nerve is lost, which supplies the tear secretion. Eye will be dry. That is called xerophthalmia. As in the botany, you have read the xerophyte. Dryness of the eye is called not xerophyte, xerophthalmia. Same xerophthalmia patient comes with the dryness of the eye. Then frontal nerve. Frontal nerve is also involved because ophthalmic division is gone. So patient comes with the loss of sensory loss of the skin of forehead because frontal nerve supplies the supratrochlear and supraorbital. So this much patch of the scalp will be sensory loss. So if you know thoroughly each and everything, which nerve is motor, which nerve is sensory, then only you can answer this question. And see the, have you seen the last year question paper of anatomy? Anybody? Now only 6 months is left. You have to prepare now. Enough is enough. 6 months has gone already. Papers are very near. Only 6 months are there for whole of the anatomy from head to toe. You have to repeat and revise. and you have not seen the paper of this previous year. Now there is no question of 10-year paper now, because you are a new batch and your previous batch is Corona batch. It is labeled as 2019 batch is Corona batch. Everything is happening to them and subsequently you also. We were 150, students changed to 250 from 19 batch. Whole of the pattern of the teaching and the examination is totally changed. You see the paper? It is 99% clinical. 99% clinical. Previous 10-year paper have got no role. Theory type question is very, very less. So all these clinical science I am telling you, you have to write. It is not given in your book, because books, they are still on the older pattern. They are not revised still. It takes so many years to come to your textbook will be changing according to new pattern. So be prepared for everything. So pituitary gland has got so many effects, anterior, laterally. How you can know? When you know the anatomy of the fossa, know the position of the cavernous sinus, then only you can answer. But if growth is anywhere, how you can? So that is how the pituitary gland is there. Then when the pituitary gland enlarges laterally, it also obstructs the central vein and artery of retina also. And we know central artery of retina supplies the yellow spot where the image is formed. The macular vision will be lost. Patient becomes blind, because central artery of retina is making the retina in the macular part ischemia, no blood supply. So these are the symptoms you have to mention whenever the pituitary tumors. And in the floor of the cavernous sinus, what lies? Internal carotid artery. And what lies? Inferolateral, again inferolateral. You have to make yellow spot here. What is this nerve? In the optic canal, there was optic nerve and ophthalmic artery. Where you have made the red spot? Inferolateral. Remember, this is also a nerve inferolateral to artery. And this is sixth nerve. Abducent nerve is the name. You should know how to draw this diagram whenever a question of cavernous sinus comes. It's a very, very important question, cavernous sinus. So, abducent nerve is very vulnerable in this position. In the rupture of the internal carotid artery, in the fracture of the norma basalis, lower part, then what happens? The pulsation of the arterial blood will now transmitted to the cavernous sinus venous blood, and that pulsation of the blood will go via the superior and the inferior ophthalmic veins to the eyeball. Normally when we put our finger over the eye, there is no pulsation felt, but in this case patient come with the pulsating eye. Eye is having pulsation like the radial pulse. It means internal carotid artery is ruptured here and eye becomes pulsating. So many signs and symptoms can be explained with the pituitary, with the medial lateral wall, and anteriorly the orbit, eyeball, superior orbital fissure, optic canal, optic chiasma. So many things you can write down. So this is how to attempt this question of the cavernous sinus applied. Now abducent nerve is vulnerable of the injury because of its course. The sixth nerve injury, culprit is the cranial cavity. So we are only concerned with the cranial cavity applied. So we know the clivus, against the clivus there lies the brainstem here, midbrain, pons and medulla. And from the pontomedullary junction arises just above the pyramid is the sixth nerve. If you remember the diagram of the ventral surface of the medulla, so sixth nerve arises somewhere here above the pyramid, and it has to go into the below the cavernous sinus. First of all, inferolateral, this is the foramen lacerum, and here lies the internal carotid artery. So this abducent nerve, which is sixth nerve, has to pass between the posterior clinoid process of the jugum sphenoidale. So this posterior part of the sella turcica and the upper half of the body of the sphenoid bone. This whole area is called jugum sphenoidale. And from the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone and the posterior clinoid process, there is a ligament. And this ligament is called the petrosphenoidal ligament. From petrous part to this sphenoid bone, posterior clinoid process, there is a ligament. And below this ligament, this abducent nerve will pass. That is the course. And this is the tip of the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone, where the outer slope and the inner slope meet. And it is very sharp. It is very sharp like this. Petrous part of temporal bone lying obliquely, and this is the apex of the petrous part of temporal bone. So from here the abducent nerve pass above this, and it is like a knife ready to cut the abducent nerve. So in the antero-posterior violent movement of the head injury, this nerve is cut. So that is the anatomy, that what is the course of the abducent nerve to reach the destination in the inner part of the superior orbital fissure. So again the petrous part of the apex or the tip will cut it, and patient come with the loss of abduction of the eye. Patient can't see the lateral part. Head should be straight. He can't see who is coming from here. The loss of vision. Then medial rectus is okay. So eye will be rotated medially, or eye will be adducted. So one eye is normal, other eye is adducted. So that is called squint. And patient will have the two visions, double vision will be there. And vice versa. If the oculomotor nerve is damaged, medial rectus will be gone. Lateral rectus is okay. The eye will be rotated laterally. This is called divergent squint. And when the lateral rectus go, it is called convergent squint. So they are applied, they are all normal. So this is how the abducent nerve is vulnerable because of the, who is the culprit, that is the sharpness of the petrous part, apex, the tip. It breaks the abducent nerve, and patient come with the complaint. Another problem of this head injury is the EDH, epi or extradural hematoma. Extradural hematoma. Another thing I left. What is the meaning of cavernous? Anybody? Why we name this sinus as the cavernous sinus? Cavernous means it is internally lined by endothelium. And this blue one is the meningeal layer of dura mater. It is intradural, intracranial venous sinus is the name. It is called cavernous because it is divided by septa into small pockets. That's why it is called cavernous, is the name given to it. Septa-like, honeycomb-like. If you cut it coronal or sagittal, it is a honeycomb-like appearance. Cavernous is the word in the anatomy we use whenever there is this. So extradural hematoma, or what is popularly known as EDH. What is EDH? It is the extradural hematoma. For that we have to cut the coronal section of the skull. If you cut the coronal section of the skull, they deploy anywhere. So what lies here inside? This is the endosteal layer of dura mater. Along this, glued together is the inner one, meningeal layer. Both are separated here in the sagittal plane to lodge the superior sagittal sinus lined by endothelium. Then below, inner to this dura mater is the arachnoid mater. And this is the double fold of the dura mater, the falx cerebri. This is the arachnoid mater, and inside lies here the brain is also cut, the cerebrum. The grey matter is also cut in the coronal section along with the meninges and the skull, everything. This is the grey matter, and the inner one is the axons, the white matter. And it is surface of the brain is covered by pia mater. It goes a little bit inside the dip into the sulci, through which the blood vessels they supply the brain. So pia mater is there, and this is the spider-like projections of arachnoid to the pia. And what it contains? CSF. Plus it contains veins of the blood, cerebrum, which opens into superior sagittal sinus. Plus it also contains branches of circle of Willis, which supplies the cerebrum. So all are bathing in the CSF. This is the complete picture of what you have read till today of skull, brain and meninges. Make it full in the full page. Whenever a question comes of the applied, you have to make this. First of all, this diagram is very, very important. So what is the EDH? There is an injury on the skull, injury is there. There may or may not be the fracture of the overlying bone, but injury is so much violent that middle meningeal vessels, that is the middle meningeal artery and the veins, they lie on the dura mater. Vein is near the endosteal layer and the artery is there. So the middle meningeal artery and the vein and the nerve, they supply the meninges, means not all the three. Middle meningeal artery, vein and nerve is made for only dura mater. So these three artery and two artery, vein and nerve, they are sandwiched between the inner table of the diploe and endosteal layer of the dura mater. So nerve is also there. Middle meningeal nerve, that is called nervus spinosus. It supplies the outer surface of the dura mater. Inner, the arachnoid and the pia mater, they are having their own blood supply, because they are supplied by the blood vessel who is supplying the brain, because they are near to them. Middle meninges is not supplying the leptomeninges, that is the arachnoid and pia. When we say meningitis, we are only including pia and arachnoid, not dura. Dura is rough, tough and durable. It is only supplied by the middle meningeal vessels and nerve. So when this dura mater is torn in the head injury, we got the headache, because it is sensitive. Arachnoid and pia, they are insensitive. Whole of the brain is also insensitive. Pain or headache after the head injury is because of nervus spinosus, who is supplying dura mater. So whenever it is torn or stretched, we got the pain or the headache. So and it is supplied by middle meningeal nerve, which is a branch of mandibular division. So whole of the dura mater above the tentorium cerebelli is supplied by mandibular branch, and below the tentorium cerebelli or tentorium cerebelli itself, the dura mater, endosteal layer or anything is supplied by C1, C2 and C3. Remember, they are supplied by the spinal cord, tentorium cerebelli, the falx cerebri, and all above the tentorium cerebelli, dura mater is supplied by nervus spinosus. So dual nerve supply is there. So headache is because of this. So whenever there is a headache of the pain in the face and the front of the head, it means dura mater is involved. If patient feel the pain after the head injury on the back side, it means something is wrong in the tentorium cerebelli, because it lies over here, because nerve supply is different. So headache is cause of the headache after head injury is this. So whenever there is an impact of the injury on the skull may be fractured or may not be, but these blood vessels, the artery and the middle meningeal vein, they will be torn, and there will be blood collection will be there. So blood is coming out of the artery and vein, and such a blood is called hematoma. I had already told you, he means blood, toma means like a tumor. So endosteal layer is stripped off from the inner table of the diploid because of the blood. It may be arterial if the middle meningeal artery is involved. Most of the time anterior branch is involved. But if the vein is involved, the venous blood may be there. Then arachnoid matter is also present, is there. Depending upon the size of the hematoma, it will progress. CT scan will tell you that after the head injury, patient got the pain, headache. So after the head injury, if the headache is there and vertigo is there, unconsciousness is there, patient has to be admitted. Or in the CT scan, if the hematoma is found, it is called extradural hematoma between the skull and the dura mater. It is extradural type of hematoma. Patient has to be observed for 48 hours. He has to be admitted. Maybe it may be small in size, but we know it is arterial. It may increase by the passage of the time, and it has happened so many times that doctor has not seen carefully the CT scan. He sent the patient that it is very minimal, and patient died at home within 48 hours. So this is sheer medical negligence. Patient has to be observed for 48 hours the injury if patient feel pain, headache and vertigo. So this hematoma cannot do anything to the skull. Where it will progress? Soft target. So it will increase in size in hourly interval, internally, and ultimately it will press the brain. Depending upon which area it is pressing, maybe precentral gyrus, maybe postcentral gyrus, maybe your Broca's area, you will get the speech loss. If precentral gyrus, you will get the hemiplegia of the opposite side. If postcentral gyrus, you feel the loss of pain, temperature, pressure and touch from your skin of your half of the body. So depending upon which area is involved, you can write down the symptoms. So that is the EDS. And it will be progressing, so it has to be evacuated as early as possible. So we have to remove it, and for that what we do, the craniotomy operation is done by neurosurgeons. Craniotomy is done. Cranio means skull, otomy means a hole. We have to make a hole in the skull to come, and this is called burr hole. Burr hole operation is done. Depending upon the area, we make a hole in the skull. No anesthesia is given in the head injury during the operation of the brain, because brain is insensitive. You touch it, no problem to the patient. Patient is lying awake. He can read the newspaper, he can see the TV, comfortably lying on the operation, and the surgeon is doing the operation. So a hole is made on the skull, that is the burr hole, and here just above the zygomatic arc we make a skin incision, scalp incision, then we also make the incision. So we make a skin incision which is a U shape, because it will save the superficial temporal artery, and superficial temporal vein is crossing here, and we repose it in it. Sometime if there is a fracture of this overlying skin, then blood will be lost. The hematoma becomes small in size with the subsequent time. It's a good sign. But infection chances are more from the wound. So it has to be evacuated. We suck it from the suction machine. Hematoma is sucked, and patient, if he got the hemiplegia after the EDS, right on the operation table, patient can move the rim. Because now the pressure is gone. We have removed the hematoma by burr hole. So that is a dramatic effect on the patient's treatment. Another type of the injury is the SDH, subdural hematoma. Subdural hematoma. Sub means below the dura. It means between the dura and the arachnoid matter. Dura and arachnoid matter, if there is a head injury involving, again there will be bleeding. It is a very thin space actually between the arachnoid and the dura, is called the subdural space. Is very thin. It's only your tip of the pencil can enter here. There are only capillary network is there, and capillary bleeding is very minimal. So CT scan after the head injury, if you find a small hematoma in the SDH, it is negligible. You can send the patient to the home. But if the head injury is above vertex, near the vertex, where lies the superior sagittal sinus, we know the cerebral veins of the superficial cerebral vein, they open into the sagittal sinus at a right angle, like this. They do not enter like this. They first go anteriorly, then posteriorly, then opens into the sagittal sinus, from anterior to posterior. Because whenever there is an anterior-posterior displacement of the brain in the skull, so this has been given a chance that they become straight and again become normal. So they are not taught. If they would have been straight, they may be shattered. So defensive mechanism is already given. But still, if the injury is head injury is very violent, then this mechanism will wither off. And what will happen? Then there will be bleeding between the arachnoid mater and the meningeal layer of dura mater. Then blood will be collected here, the venous blood here, between the dura and this, along the sagittal sinus. So here the blood is collected, and it will now again increasing, and it will press the grey and white matter. So this is the SDH type. Then another is subarachnoid hemorrhage. Subarachnoid. Sub means below the arachnoid. If the head injury is there, impact is there, and now branches of circle of Willis, branches of the two vertebral arteries are running on the surface. So on the surface of the brain, these vessels, they are damaged. Or most common cause is the high blood pressure. Hypertension patient. Why we say that at least you take one small tablet in the morning? People are just not following that. They suffer from stroke. Because cerebral arteries, they are the end arteries, like coronary arteries. they enter the cerebrum or brain at right angle. They are not like the veins, they are not obliquely. They are at right angle to the surface of the brain. And on the surface of the brain, there is a good anastomosis between the anterior, middle and posterior cerebral artery and other arteries. But once this artery enters into the substance of the brain, gray or white matter, it becomes end artery. So that is the problem. So this is selfish artery. It will only supply its own territory. It won't supply the another. It has got no collaboration or collaterals. That is the problem. And this is the reason why the internal capsule is involved. Most common artery of the hemorrhage is, what is the name of the common artery of the hemorrhage? Anybody? Most common involved artery of the hemorrhage is the branch of middle cerebral artery lying in the lateral sulcus. Middle cerebral artery is the direct continuation of the internal carotid artery. It lies somewhere here in the lateral sulcus. It gives a branch which supplies the lentiform nucleus, the putamen, the globus pallidus, and after supplying this, it supplies the posterior limb of the internal capsule, which is clinically very, very important. Whole of your precentral gyri, which is 6 inches long, is only accommodated into 2 centimeters. All the fibers of homunculus, corticospinal, head, neck, upper limb, thorax, abdomen and lower limb is represented like this. So this particular artery branch of middle cerebral artery is supplying the lentiform nucleus, and it ends by supplying the posterior limb. Is called lenticulostriate artery. Remember, this artery will be asked so many times. Lenticulostriate branch of artery of the middle cerebral artery branch is having no collateral. Number 1. Number 2, it is the end artery. Number 3, you have to say that it remains under high blood pressure. Normally, even normal person, and who is suffering from hypertension, this artery, the first artery, will be ruptured. In the injury, the cerebral hemorrhage, one of the cause of T, T and H, I have told you. So this artery will be damaged. And now when the artery is ruptured in the subarachnoid space, bleeding will be there. Now the CSF is already there. Now CSF plus blood. So what will happen? Intracranial pressure will increase. Volume increases, physics, pressure increases. And there is a subarachnoid hemorrhage is covering whole of the brain from outside. Plus it is inside in the ventricle also. So all the lateral third and fourth ventricle, they will be enlarged. The shape of the C shape of the lateral ventricle no longer is there. It becomes other shape. All they are dilated, and this dilatation of the ventricles will shift the falx cerebri to the, in the CT scan, falx cerebri is like this. Midline shift is there. The right cerebral hemisphere is now pressing the left hemisphere. All neurological problems patient come with. Blood increases. And all the 12 pairs of the cranial nerves exiting from the various foraminas. These foramens, ovale and rotundum, they are the enemy of the cranial nerves. See their margins, very sharp. In any type of the violent injury, cranial nerve will be cut. And there is a long list of the cranial nerves, the problem patient come. So this is the subarachnoid hemorrhage. All the nerves exiting the foramens, they will